everyone, my name is Amanda Jaramillo and welcome to week 3. This week we'll be discussing improving timely employee evaluations. So if there was one thing I could change, I chose for this scenario employee evaluations done in a timely manner. At any city that I've worked at, I've always seen that there's a frequent overdue and lack in timeliness in providing these evaluations. Again, this can lead to morale. It can also lead to unmotivated employees. The proposed change is to require that all evaluations are completed by a deadline. If the evaluations are not completed on time, then the employee automatically shall receive a 2-step increase regardless of the performance. This will establish timely and consistent evaluations and practices that reinforce the accountability and also motivate the employee, but also fosters culture of fairness. You may think, well, why is the employee going to get a 2-step increase? Well, if they don't have the evaluation done in time, why should they be strict to enforce by the action plan in place if they have a bad eval if you didn't give it to them in a timely manner? So this way it's fair to the manager, but it's also fair to the employee because we rely on these evaluations to improve on the employee, improve on the managing, but also to improve on the organization as a whole. So the themes for change, we're going to look at Frederick Taylor's scientific management, which will build off to Henry Fayette's administrative theory. And then 3, of course, after we start to lay the foundation and build, we're going to build with theory Luther Gillick's and his planning and accountability. So before we can layer the things, we want to break down it. So let's start off with Frederick Taylor. He emphasized breaking down each task to become specialized through a very systematic approach to improve efficiency and productivity. When we break down each task into smaller standardization components, it maximizes the effectiveness of the overall role in ensuring that everyone can complete it in a very clear, structured pathway. Now, when we're applying this to evaluation, same thing goes across. We want to ensure that we're providing a step-by-step standardized process for all managers, regardless if the employee is safety, non-safety, or have been here for years. We want to ensure that it's consistent, structured, and reduces any ambiguity or any chances to miss a step. When it comes to deadlines, Taylor's approach definitely included that, we want to use, clear expectations in completing the task, but also setting deadlines. We want to make sure that these deadlines, align with the demand of each evaluation cycle. So let's say we set the deadline that every employee gets it on their anniversary. Now, you may be thinking that's very tedious. How is a manager going to keep track of this? Well, if we complete the evaluation in a timely manner and set it online, then we're able to track it online when each employee is due and provide them a report on time of when the next evaluation is due for each month. This kind of reduces delays because, it's more efficiency and we're complying it online. We want to ensure, the expected outcome is to give that employee that feedback because regardless if they are given a step increase, we want to ensure that they have that value feedback to improve for next year, or maybe they need to go seek guidance and training on certain new areas. We want to build that sense of routine and reinforce timelines and trying to create a very systematic approach in breaking down the evaluation. We kind of want to reduce any neglected task, or maybe we're not hitting a core value. We want to ensure this timely responsibility onto the manager, but also onto the employee that we are completing this. This leads me to theme 2. Now that we've broken down each step, it's time to create structure and coordination, which brings in Henry Fayette's administrative theory. This goes a little bit beyond the individual task and focus on the organizational structure and clarity of roles. The reason why I bring this up is because we want to ensure in the evaluation process that specific responsibilities and establish a hierarchy that the organization can ensure who's completing this evaluation. Because let's face it, if the employee doesn't know who their manager is, or the manager doesn't know who's their subordinates, how are we expecting this? And when I bring this up, I talk about shift rotation. And what do I mean by this? Well, let's face it, a lot of public administration employees, whether they're on maintenance, officers, or maybe a firefighter, there are shift changes. So a manager may say, hey, I don't have to complete this evaluation for this employee because they're no longer my subordinate. They've now moved on to a different shift, to a different manager. So we want to ensure that we have clear roles and hierarchy. So regardless if this person was no longer with them, we want to ensure that that individual is still getting evaluated. So when their shift changes, we want to make sure that someone is in charge of that evaluation when it happens. So clearly defining these roles when it comes to it. Henry Fallets definitely had a very strong approach when it comes to accountability, directing, and creating a hierarchy. So this will play a big role in ensuring that, we have very clear structures on who's going to be completing it, who's assigned to it. So then going forward, they just complete it and go forward. The reason why we want to emphasize discipline and unity in hierarchy is to ensure the organizational success and ensuring that this employee is getting that evaluation regardless of a shift change, regardless. Because where the managers are consistent and following the established process is essential because we're creating this unity of direction and aligns with the managers moving forward. The expected outcome is that essentially we have a very clear structure and very clear roles that no matter who's on shift, that captain is responsible for that evaluation because we want to ensure that there's accountability and they're also contributing to this evaluation in their own reflection and their own accountability. Because if we're not providing this feedback, how do we ensure that the culture of the organization is improving and also providing that performance management behind the values when it comes to this organization? Now, this will lead me to my theme 3, which is planning and accountability. Now that we've broken it down, now that we've created a clear structure and a hierarchy, we need a plan for it. Because let's face it, managers go out on leave of absence or FMLA, or maybe they go out on vacation for a couple months at a time. Who knows? We want to ensure that there's a framework. And this is where Luther Gillick comes in place with his very, very detailed planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, and budgeting. And when I bring this in, you may be thinking, where is it coming in for an evaluation? Well, we want to ensure we develop an early structure for the evaluation. And ensuring all evaluations are very well planned in advance helps set the plan stage going forward, because if we start setting the times of when they're due, it leads to the risk of being delayed and also ensures that someone's assigned to this evaluation and completing for that employee. So when it comes to organization staffing, ensuring that each department is staffed properly, managers are evaluating these employees and are actually assigned to an employee to ensure that they are completing it. Now, when it comes to directing and coordinating, we want to coordinate with each department to ensure that they are going across and making the importance of this evaluation and coordinating across themselves to ensure that the department aligns their timeliness standards, but also ensures that the manager is completing it and that the employee abides by this evaluation if there is an action plan needed. Reporting. We want to ensure that the evaluations are being completed on time, so we will be tracking the evaluation progress. Upper management can easily identify when a department is either falling behind or needs multiple follow-ups in completing these evaluations. And when it comes to budgeting, well, if we're going online, if we're doing the training, if we're giving the support, again, we want to ensure that we are investing in the process, emphasizing the importance that it shows to the commitment and the fair structure and management. The expected outcome for, of course, Luther Gillick is to essentially bring in efficiency and structure with Taylor Fallout series into a cohesive framework, but also ensure that there's accountability and that we are planning ahead for any type of legalities or maybe logistic factors that may be coming in, because let's face it, we want to ensure that the managers are aware that their evaluation performance are being monitored and encouraged that they complete this, because it's not only on the manager but it's also on the employee to making sure that this process works. So to conclude, I think the layering approach will enforce and establish a better work culture based on these evaluations, but also provide a sense of urgency, timeliness, and also benefit the employee and the organization as a whole. I think we want to recognize that the value of structure and feedback is so that the managers can encourage the employees, but also, provide a well-deserved feedback, because when there's a salary adjustments are not directly tied to the process, ultimately these changes the foster of continuous improvement, but also enhance the employee's engagement. We want to ensure that we are building a fair culture, but also a constructive performance management.